the program, the PowerPoint that you're going to see here is pretty much going to look like the information sessions that I'll put together, but I will skip some of the pages basically here just to kind of condense the presentation. But we will have information sessions again posted later this month, and that they will start sometime in the summer. And I always like to emphasize that I meet with students one-on-one, but due to COVID-19, we're going to have to do that virtually. So Zoom is totally fine with me, as well as my other colleagues. So I will also answer some questions throughout this presentation, but again, of course, keep those, or keep yours in mind, and I'll definitely be able to answer those later, okay? So the purpose basically is for me to introduce this program for you guys, for those that may have questions, maybe have just heard of it, and basically are hoping to get, some questions answered. The master's program, we call it MECN for short, which is Master's Entry Clinical Nurse, of course, and it is going to be for those that receive a bachelor's degree in another discipline, okay? We do offer a CNL certification, so it is a clinical nurse leader focus within the program, but we also offer a public health certification as well. Okay, so we'll skip that and that. All right, so like I was stating earlier, a bachelor's degree in any discipline. So we receive applicants who receive their bachelor's degree in arts. It could be of English or even of a science. It could be, biology or chemistry, wherever the case is. So we get a wide range of applicants that enter our program from their prior education. So it is a 2-year program. I guess if you want to be exact, it's going to be 22 months. So it is full-time. You come starting your first year all the way through, then you enter and complete your summer in between your first and second year, and then you start with your second year, and then you'll go ahead and finish in the spring. We are on the quarter basis, so it's a total of 7 quarters. And if you're not familiar, it's 10 weeks, but I'm assuming you guys are all UCLA students and you're all used to that as well, okay? But I see that last bullet is what you're probably really focusing on. And so we admit 70 students per year. The next question would probably be is how many applicants apply? So for those that applied this past fall for fall 2020, we received 450 applications. And so I guess if you want to, do a little bit of math with that, we admit 70 students. Okay, so it is slightly competitive. All right, so what does a typical MECN student look like? On average, the ages range from anywhere between 23 to 50. Obviously, that's an age range, so it could be younger or even older. We don't discriminate when it comes to age, of course, as well as gender, but we always like to just provide statistics. For this fall, for students that are in their first year, we had 64 females and 6 males. The years prior, we had about 14, 15 males. This year, I actually have not done the calculations yet, so I can't tell you in terms of those that are getting ready to start what that outlook looks like. But for those that are getting ready to complete their first year, their average GPA was a 3.47. And we do that by looking at their cumulative GPA. So in the past, UCLA Graduate Division would look at the last 2 years of someone's bachelor's degree, but now we do look at basically the totality. So we'll look at the overall GPA, and it's a 3.47. Our minimum is a 3.0, so that does again kind of show you the competitiveness of the program. I always like to say, if your GPA is not a 3.0, if you do not meet that mark, it does not mean we automatically, deny an applicant or cut them off. We do admit, students with a GPA under a 3.0. So what I'll kind of talk about in the application is how to also make your application competitive if you feel like you haven't met, these benchmarks. A lot of people always ask, is there a priority for being a UCLA graduate or a UC graduate or even a Cal State or whatever the case is? No, everyone's on a level playing field. Okay, and then it also does not matter the major as well that you received your bachelor's degree in. So that has no variation in terms of being more competitive or not. Okay. All right, so why UCLA? I probably don't have to sell you guys on why UCLA, but in terms of the School of Nursing, we are a small program. In total, we have about 600 students, so that's from undergrads all the way up to our doctoral programs. So we are very small. We only met 70 MECNs, so a total class with well, I guess within year 1 and year 2 is 140. But what we like within the School of Nursing is that we basically have everything that a student needs. We have our own Office of Financial Aid here, Craig Kusanoki, who everyone loves, obviously. He's the one that kind of doles out the money and the scholarships. So we definitely have that, so you don't have to go to Upper Campus, Murphy Hall, whatever the case is there. We have our own counselors, our admissions counselors, obviously, looking at that. But as a student, you will also have your faculty advisor. What we'll also do is we'll have a student mentor. So a person who's a year above you, will make sure that we put you with a mentor. That way, if it's, you have questions about a certain professor or a certain class, or should I buy this book, whatever the case is, your student mentor can kind of give you the lowdown on that. We also have a student service coordinator. Her name is Janet Kang. She meets with you, quarterly to make sure you're progressing and things like that. We have specialty coaches. We have a safe zone. So we have a lot of things implemented within the school in terms of resources to make sure that you're progressing and that you're able to succeed within the 2 years. Another thing that we're proud of is we're one of the top ranked nursing programs in the country, and that's based off US News and Reports. So there's a lot of things that we feel in terms of being a small community within a big city. So that's UCLA within Los Angeles, but it's the same thing in terms of the School of Nursing within the big campus of UCLA. Okay, so some things to think about is going to be the admission deadline. So for fall 2021, our admission deadline is going to be November 1st. The application will open up after Labor Day. We'll see, obviously, because of COVID-19, but typically the application will open up after Labor Day, so first week of September, and then we'll have a November 1st deadline. There is a difference, obviously, between undergraduate and graduate work. So once you do complete this program, you will be recognized as receiving your master's in nursing. And then your clinicals and classes are scheduled. They will be during the week. You may have something on Saturday, but they will be during the week and they will be during the day. Okay, so obviously our goal is to provide new workforce of RNs, and we want to make sure that our clinical leaders are going to be in a healthcare setting for high acuity and high tech. What you'll also see here is just some of the hospitals that we're affiliated with. So you'll see we'll go as far as Torrance, all the way up to Northridge if it's on there, but anywhere in between, Cedars, UCLA, of course, CHLA, and so forth. Okay, so I did state the minimum GPA of it being a 3.0. When are decisions made? A lot of people ask that. So if you're going to be applying by the November 1st deadline, our goal is to have the admissions out by February. Okay, we always say end of February, but we're hoping to always have it before that. Is there a wait list for the program? So there is. So what we'll do is we'll admit our 70 students, and then we'll also make a wait list of about 25 to 30. So of the initial 70 that we offer admissions, for those that do say no, then we will pull students off the wait list. Okay. Can students defer for the next year if they're admitted? They cannot. So when you receive your offer letter, it will be for that fall, for that term that you applied for. So you cannot defer. How often do we admit for the program? Fall only, just like the rest of the programs that UCLA offers. Is there graduate housing? Yes, we do have graduate housing. For our students, we have family housing as well. So that is definitely something that's available. And what's our retention rate? Over 90%. Can't give you the exact figures, but most of the students, obviously you start, will end up graduating with the cohort. And if for any reason we have to put someone on a 3-year plan, we do that as well. But all of our students will end up graduating. And how well do the students do in the NCLEX? So this is a very good question. I think it's a question that you should ask, other programs that you may be interested in applying to, because you want to make sure if you're going to be spending the money and you're going to be dedicating your 2 years, that the program is going to be preparing you. And so we have over a 90% first-time pass rate. Last year, we had 100% first-time pass rate. No, sorry, 2 years ago, 100% first-time pass rate. I want to say this past year was like 96. But we're always, in the 90 percentile. Okay, So really fast for your clinical experience in your first year, it will start your winter quarter. And so your first quarter obviously will be fall, so you won't have any clinical experience then, but you will start it in the winter. So winter and spring is going to be med-surg. Summer is going to be mental health and geriatrics. In your second year, you start pediatrics. Will be pediatrics. And then winter quarter is going to be immersion. And then spring is going to be public health. So really fast, winter quarter is immersion. So that's where you'll be able to select your certain hospital, hopefully of interest, as well as what floor you would want to work. And then our clinical placement team does their best job they can to provide your number one choice. And that's where you're actually going to be dedicating your time, as if you're really going to be working 12-hour shifts, whatever the case is, as if you're really working in a sense. And then in that, you're going to be also having like a project, quality improvement type of project that will be implemented within the floor as well after you finish your immersion. So the students can talk a little bit about that, and Stephanie can, since she's in her second year, but she can talk a little bit about what she did. Okay. All right, so this course sequence does look a little wonky, but it basically outlines the different classes that you'll be taking each quarter. So it looks like you'll be taking, basically 4 classes a quarter if it's lecture, didactic and or your skills lab, but your clinical rotations. But as you can see for the total units, you will be a full-time student. So as you see, it's anywhere between 16 to 17 units. That's just for year 1. And then year 2, as you see in the fall, it's heavy. And then winter and spring is a little bit less. But that last quarter should be at least, it says 11 units, might be 12. But again, Stephanie can probably answer that for you as well. Okay, so time commitment, obviously, usually says for every unit, I guess, which is part of the program, they expect you to study 3 hours. If it's in the class and or out the class. So let's say if you're taking 14 units, they're saying, hey, you should dedicate at least 42 hours. You may have to dedicate way more, way less, depends on your study habits, how you retain information, things like that. But it's always something we always want to just, let you know. As current UCLA students, I'm assuming you have good study habits, so you'll know how to, succeed. Okay, so for the admissions process, you will go through grad.ucla.edu. And in there, what you'll do is you'll have to select for plans of graduate study. If you're new, readmission or renewal, all those that are going to be applying for grad school for the first time, you will be a new applicant. And then what you'll do is you'll have to select major/program, and you want to make sure that you're selecting nursing, MSN/MECN. Okay, we offer 4 different graduate programs, so you want to make sure you're selecting the right one, because this will make sure your application goes through the right cycle. So again, make sure it says MECN. Okay, so what you'll do is you'll put your academic history as well as your transcripts. So you'll be able to upload your unofficial transcripts there. And so one thing that's changed is if admitted, then that's when we'll ask for your official transcripts. So in the past, we would already have you send those, but for admissions, you can actually upload your unofficials, and then we'll ask for your officials later. Okay, so next is going to be the statement of purpose, and it basically talks about what we look for in an applicant. And so what we'll want you to do is obviously talk about, why you want to be a nurse, your reasons for selecting UCLA, and then also giving us a clear statement of your goals. Obviously that could change as you're going through the program, or if you finish the program, that's totally fine. But for now, do you want to be a travel nurse? Do you want to, go back, start your own clinic? Whatever the case is it you want to become, NP, get your doctorate, whatever the case is, we really want you to just, at that time, talk about your potential goals. It really does give the reviewers an outlook in terms of what your passion is and where you want to go. We'll also look for volunteer experience in a healthcare setting or anything that's relevant to nursing. Work experience as well. A lot of people think, volunteer and work experience is different. We really just want to see something that's obviously healthcare related. So if you're a CNA, it's totally fine. Or if you're volunteering at UCLA Ronald Reagan and they're volunteer, or their clinical extender program, obviously that's fine. We'll also want to see leadership activity and qualities. We also want you to talk about any multicultural and or diversity experience that you have, okay? We also want to see if you have any life experiences. So if you've had any challenges, if it's economic, social, if you're first generation, we want to know that. We do have a holistic approach, so it's not just nursing, but we really want to get a full background of who you are. So that's where you're going to talk about your diversity as well as your leadership. So we do want to see if you had any adversity that you overcame. Okay, we also want to see if you are multilingual, bilingual. So describe it. Have you used that in a clinical setting? That obviously here being in Los Angeles, so many different languages that are being spoken. So that is definitely a plus. So you want to talk about that. Okay, so in the statement of purpose, you have up to 500 words. So this has changed. The years prior, you would have 3 pages to write. But what the university did is they changed it up a little bit, okay? So for the statement of purpose, it's 1 page, up to 500 words in a single space. And in there, they're gonna have different questions that they're gonna want you to answer. So for instance, it's gonna be, what is your purpose for applying to graduate study for that specific degree? Describe your interests, including the subfield and the interdisciplinary interests. The next one, we'll talk about what experiences have prepared you for advanced study. Talk about any relevant skills. The next question is what additional information about your past experience is going to aid the committee to evaluating your preparation. And so what you'll do is you'll just kind of see these questions, right? And you don't have to answer each question. You can answer any question you like, but what you should do is go back to, again, what I was saying prior in terms of what we look for in an applicant and take what we're looking in that and talk about it by answering it through these questions, okay? These questions are, as you can see, they're generic. They're basically what UCLA Graduate Division has put together, and in the School of Nursing, we are looking for specific things. So if it says, what additional information about your past experiences aid you? So talk about life experiences, life challenges, okay? So those are the sort of things you're gonna have to implement into these questions. There's also going to be a personal statement, okay? So the personal statement is also going to be a page, and it will be single spaced as well, okay? So with the statement of purpose and the personal statement both being single spaced, if you were to double it, it would probably both come out to be about 3 pages, okay? But what UCLA Graduate Division wanted to do was separate the two. So in the personal statement, this is where you'll also, you'll get a little bit personal. So again, we want you to talk about any educational, personal, cultural experiences and challenges. So again, you may have to be redundant, so you can talk about any life experiences that you've gone through. The 4th or 5th bullet talks about contributions to diversity. So again, this is where you can talk about your multicultural experience and the diversity that we're looking for. So again, this might sound a little tricky, and I can go in more depth with that if you have any questions on that. But my biggest thing is, if you haven't looked at our tip sheet, it again talks about what we look for in an applicant, and what you want to do is hit each bullet point by these 2 essays. Okay. All right. So for the letter of recommendations, we're going to ask for 3. If you have, or if you're working, we want you to use a current employer or supervisor. If you're volunteering, you can use a supervisor. With that as well, you can use a college professor, anybody in a healthcare setting. Our main thing, obviously, is no family or friends, but that you're going to be choosing 3 people in a profession that also know that nursing is what you want to do. So a lot of the time, someone will choose a recommender because the title may look good. They may be, an MD, or they may be a nurse, or they may work, at Johns Hopkins or UCLA, wherever the case is, but they may not know much about you, right? Or they may not know nursing is what you want to, what you want to do, and that is your career path. So you want to make sure that you're choosing 3 people that know you and that know nursing is what you want. The reason why I say that is because the letter of recommendations, it's a grid form. And what you'll do is you'll put your recommender's name, their email address, and then they're sent form electronically. So they'll be able to check off certain things that UCLA School of Nursing asks. How is your maturity? How is your leadership? How is your intellect? Writing abilities, things of that nature. And you want the recommender to say that you're excellent or outstanding in these areas. There's also a column for average, below average, and do not know. So again, you really want to make sure that your recommenders know that nursing is what you want and that they'll be able to express, the different qualities and traits that you have. Also with that, let me back up. They can also attach a letter as well. So they will have to submit the form, but there's also an optional upload, so they can, if they feel the letter recommendation form doesn't really do justice in terms of what they want to say about you, they can also upload a letter. Okay, so resume, it's going to be a typical resume and or CV. What we want you to do is, in chronological order, list your education, honors received, work experience, volunteer experience, professional organizations, and so forth. Okay. Typically, people think a resume has to be one page, probably that way for employment, but for us, you can exceed one page. Typically, people do 2 pages, 3 pages is fine as well. There's no interviews on this program, so whatever you leave out in the statement of purpose, personal statement, and or your resume, the committee's not going to know. So if you have to get the 3 pages on your resume, that's totally fine. Okay. All right, so let's go over the prerequisites really fast. I'm almost done. So for the prerequisites, we're going to ask for you to complete chemistry, which is in inorganic, organic, and biochemistry. There's going to be a verbal communication, which is public speaking. As you see, there's epidemiology, but of all these prerequisites, it's the only one that you do not have to have completed at the time of applying. If admitted, you'll be able to take it with us during the summer. So for instance, those that are getting ready to start this fall, they will be taking it next month, actually. Human anatomy, and now human physiology is the only prerequisite that has a time limit. It says within the last 5 years, and so it says 2015 or more recent. So that's for those that applied for this fall 2020. So for those applying for fall 2021, it would be 2016. Okay, so it's 5 years to actually enter in the program. Then there's microbiology and psychology. So with psychology, this one, we only accept an introduction or general psychology. So no lifespan, no developmental, no cognitive, nothing of that nature. We're only going to look for an intro or general psychology course. Then we have statistics. For this one, it's a little bit opposite, where we're lenient. You can have a psychology stats, a business stats, intro to stats, whatever the case is. We're just looking for a statistics type of course. It does say preferred within the last 5 years, but if it's later than 5 years, that's totally fine. It's not a requirement, just as it's preferred. And if you're within the 5 years, that doesn't make you any more competitive than someone who's not. Okay. And then last is going to be 2 writing courses, and that can be obviously English, composition, any writing intensive course. For UCLA students, if it has a W at the end, obviously we'll accept those as writing courses. For prerequisites, we do need those to be passed with a C or better. Again, competitive-wise, we're going to ask for A's and B's. Okay, so C's are fine, A's and B's are what we're looking for. All prerequisites, if you're applying, again, for fall 2021, all prerequisites have to be completed by this December of 2020, not 2019, so this December 2020. So you can have classes or prerequisites in progress this fall. Okay, they just have to be completed by the end of December. Right. I'm skipping over international applicants. The reason for it is if you're a graduate here at UCLA, even if you are internationally, you do not have to take the TOEFL or the IELTS. Okay, last but not least, again, submissions. It's going to be November 1st. Actually, I guess it falls on a Sunday today, this year. So Sunday, November 1st. It's going to be on the 1st. So not October 31st, but you actually have November 1st to submit it. And then what we also do is we have supporting documents. We extend that deadline to January 15th. So that is for those who completed prerequisites in the fall. We give you until January 15th to send those transcripts, right, and those grades. If you have letter recommendations that are still outstanding, or you're still waiting for your recommenders to submit that, we give them till January 15th. Okay, and then from there, then the applications go into the review process. All right, so let me stop sharing, and I believe it will be on Christina, who I believe is going to introduce Stephanie and Adam.
You have some questions in the Q&A if you want to take a look at it.
Awesome. All right, so let's see here. Oh, sorry. Okay. As an undergrad, what should I be doing to prepare for this program? So as an undergrad, obviously your GPA does matter. So the good thing is if you're currently a student, you know the minimum GPA is a 3.0 that we're looking for, right? The average is 3.47 of last year. Again, it can change from year to year, but at least you know, kind of know what the benchmark is. Okay, so competitively speaking for your academics, that's what you want. For prereqs, of course, A's and B's. There's a point scale for what you receive in terms of your GPA and your prerequisites. So you want to make sure you have A's and B's. The main thing though is just to continue receiving or getting healthcare experience. Okay, so that could be in any capacity. We get those that have a wide range of healthcare experience. And again, Stephanie and Adam can talk about that. We get those that become CNAs, LVNs, EMTs, scribes, those that have mission trips. There's a bunch of things, but we're not looking for one thing in particular. Okay, so just whatever you're able to do that, and keep doubling down on that. Keep learning, keep getting your hands on experience, because it's only going to be able to help you articulate yourself when you're writing your statement of purpose in a personal statement. Okay. If we are currently in a bachelor's program, will the admissions decision be lenient with regards to volunteer experience because of COVID? Yes. So this has been a lot of questions that I've been receiving. And the admissions, and we had a meeting last month, and we're probably going to have another one this month. But the admissions committee is aware that obviously, a lot of volunteer programs have been canceled due to COVID, and that it will be reflected in the applications. So they do know that. I'm going to continue making them aware of that, especially when the fall comes when you apply, and then the review session or part comes in January. So yes. I don't know if the word's going to be lenient, but they will be aware that this year's applicant pool might not have as much experience as those in the past. Okay. I would like to know how we can schedule, one-on-one appointment, yes. So let me type my email address in here, and feel free to send me an email. You can send me an email with any dates and or times that you're available, and we can set up a one-on-one Zoom appointment. Okay, so that's totally fine, and I can answer any specific questions that you have. Okay, next question is, do we accept AP credits for the writing requirement? Yes, we accept AP credit for any of the prerequisites, but specifically for writing requirement, we accept score of a 4 or a 5. For writing. So as long as you scored a 4 or 5, we will accept it. Here's the thing though, for AP credit, we will only accept 1. So you couldn't use an AP for writing, another AP for psychology, and so forth. So you only get 1 chance to use your AP score. So if you want to use it for writing, that's fine. But it will be a 4 or 5. That's going to be typical for any of the prerequisites. Same thing for psychology. I know a lot of people use that, and that's going to be a 4 or 5 as well. Okay, is there in-state tuition for the program? What is the total cost for the 2 years? And how much do you consider what we are doing during our gap year? Okay, so in-state tuition, I believe is about $28,000, almost $29,000 per year. We have our own director of financial aid, Craig, who I can also put down his email. You can let him know that you're interested in. He can kind of send you some information on that, because there's other things, books and supplies, things of that nature. If you needed grad housing, that's an additional cost and all that sort of thing. So I'll put his email in here. and he'll be able to help you with that. And it says how much do we consider in terms of the gap year? Again, you're going to have those that are working, in their current profession for 10, 15 years, or those that just graduated and want to do a gap year. We don't necessarily look at a gap year. What we look for is just what you're doing at the time of after graduating. Okay, so again, try to get as much healthcare experience as you can, life experience, and things of that nature. So let me put that down. All right. How is GPA calculated if you take prerequisite courses at other institutions other than the university where you received your degree? Okay, so good question. So after you graduate, your GPA is basically set. Okay, so any prerequisites or any classes you take after graduating will not go into your GPA. All right, so a lot of people think, okay, after I graduated, I can take prerequisites and it can boost my GPA. Your GPA is literally set in stone, cannot be changed after you graduate. And so we look at the GPA separate from the prerequisites if you've completed them after graduating. So we'll look at your GPA and then we'll look to see what your prerequisites are. We do not do a GPA calculation for prerequisites though. All right. And is it recommended to take prerequisites at a community college? Yes, it is. It's cheaper. The committee doesn't look at prerequisites done at a community college any different from a university or a four-year. Okay, so I would recommend doing it at a community college if you can. All right, if we're receiving our bachelor's degree in the spring, are we still able to apply? Yes. So your prerequisites would have to be completed by the end of this fall semester, but your degree could be in progress. So as long as your degree is completed before fall 2021, you can apply. Okay, regarding prerequisites, because of COVID, it looks like a lot of the online classes have, a lot of the classes have been moved to online, and then there's also talks about lab. So I'm glad you brought that up. So for our science prerequisites, we actually do not require a lab, okay? Now with that, if you are at a community college or some other institution that is making you take the lab with the lecture, then that's just something you'll have to do. But here for the MECN program, we're only going to look at the lecture grade. Okay, so if you are taking a class where the lecture, let's just say it's chemistry, where the chemistry lecture is separate from the lab, and if you're just able to take the lecture, go ahead and do that because we're not going to look at the lab. And so one thing I also want to mention is because of COVID, I know a lot of schools are also only providing the opportunity of a pass/no pass. And so we will accept pass classes for prerequisites. If you have the option of still receiving a grade and or a pass, the admissions committee did want me obviously to state that they do want to see a letter grade. But if you only have the option of a pass, that's fine. Okay, I'm volunteering and also planning to get my CNA this summer. Okay, if the COVID situation is solved, can I update my health experience or work experience and volunteer experience at the time of application? So that's a good question. What I would recommend doing is don't be the first one to apply when the application opens up in September. Okay. The reason I say that is because we do not look at applications until after the deadline. So you can receive a lot of experience between the month of September into November 1st. So hold off on that, and you can continue to update your your resume in that sense. After the November 1st deadline, if you wanted to, if you did something and you wanted to update your resume, we can do that. We can accept an updated resume, but we can't, accept updated statement of purpose or personal statement. Okay. Will taking Writing 2 credit from the cluster course be accepted? Yes, as long as it has that W next to it or CW. As long as it has that, we will accept it. Okay, would you recommend this program for people who want to possibly work towards being a nurse practitioner in the future? So the answer is a yes, but there's different ways of becoming a nurse practitioner. I can tell you that if you complete your the MECN program, you will receive your MSN degree. A nurse practitioner is also an MSN degree as well, okay? And because of it, we do not offer what's called a postmaster's certificate program. The reason why it's called a postmaster's is because, again, you cannot receive the same degree. So even though the MECN program is different from the nurse practitioner program, it's still the same MSN degree, okay? So with that, if you complete our MECN, you would not be able to come back to our nurse practitioner program. You would then have to look into a postmaster's program to get your NP. I know like Cal State, the Cal States have it, Cal State LA would have that. So you could do that. If you, and there's a little bit less, I guess, opportunity for a postmaster's. Just not a lot of other programs have that. If, let's say, you received your BSN from another university, then you could apply to our MSN NP program. So that is something that you could do.
Just I want to stop for a minute to introduce Stephanie and Adam too,
Awesome.
so they can introduce themselves, and then we're going to go back to the Q&As, okay?
Perfect. Yes.
So just hold on one second. Oh, hi, Stephanie, and hi, Adam. Stephanie, would you like to start introducing yourself, and then we're going to move on to Adam. So let's see.
Sure. Hi, everybody. My name is Steph Busby. I am a current MECN 2, which means I'll be graduating in exactly 33 days, which is really exciting.
Who's counting, right?
Counting down. I got my BA in Italian Studies from UC Berkeley in 2013. I moved back to LA. I'm born and raised here. And started to work as a professional photographer for a few years. Then I had a quarter-life crisis and was pretty lost about what I wanted to do with my life. I just knew that I was really unhappy with the career that I was in. So with some heavy soul searching, I eventually came to the conclusion that I eventually wanted to become actually a nurse practitioner, which is what someone just brought up. While that's kind of in the distant future for me, I decided to apply to programs where you can get your RN. There are programs that go directly to NP, but I decided that it would be best for me to kind of dip my toes in the water and really understand what nursing means. And so I applied to several programs, one being UCLA. I got rejected my first time, so it's not the end of the world, and kept working at it and applied the year after, and now I'm graduating in 33 days.
Thank you. Adam?
Hello, everybody. So I graduated from UC Berkeley as well back in 2011, so a really long time ago. After that, you know, I was a biology major, and I wasn't sure. I was always kind of on the edge with medical school, and I knew that I wasn't trying to jump into the workforce right away to launch like a professional career. So I became an EMT, and I worked as an EMT for a couple of years. During that time, I applied to the Peace Corps, where I served in Ecuador. I was there for about 2.5 years working in health education. And it was during that time where that put me kind of on the path towards public health. And so when I finished the Peace Corps, that's what I did. I applied to public health programs, and I got into actually UCLA, Fielding School of Public Health, and I finished my master's in 2019, so not too long ago. But it was during that time that I realized that a lot of public health, I mean, I really love the field, but you're kind of once removed from the patients, from the populations in which you're serving. And what I found that I really liked in the Peace Corps was I did a lot of sort of community health projects where I would deliver health education programs to the community, interact with them. So that's something that was kind of missing in my public health program, where I got to do an internship at Kaiser, and I realized that, you know, in public health, you're often working kind of in an office setting, and you're not really kind of on the front lines and in the field. So during my internship in my public health program, I did a lot of informational interviews with nurses and a lot of different health professionals. And that kind of allowed me to get some insight into the profession. And I knew that I wanted to be able to incorporate direct patient care within my future career. So right now, what I'm thinking is once I graduate, I know I want to get my hands wet in sort of different nursing fields and figure out what I want to do. I might transition back into public health, or also go the NP route. I have kind of a budding interest in psychiatric nursing, so looking forward to explore that further in the summer. Yeah, so that's kind of my path.
All right. So if any of you have any questions directly to Stephanie and Adam, please type it into the Q&A. And we're gonna go back answering the question. I asked Mark if he wants to. He can also answer questions by typing the answers as well. And we're gonna take the Q&A for everyone.
And one thing I forgot to mention, so I'm a college academic mentor here at UCLA.
Yeah.
So if you're looking to schedule one-on-one 30-minute appointments with me, you can do that through the College Academic Counseling website. And you can either do it through virtual drop-ins, or you can send a message through Message Center and just say, I want to schedule an appointment with Adam, and we can schedule you and we can talk a little bit more about it.
I just added the college academic mentors into the chat box too. So, Mark, are you there?
Yes.
So we can resume the Q&A,
Okay.
and hopefully there will be questions showing up for Stephanie and Adam too.
Yeah, definitely. So I did start typing in some answers, but let me see where I left off. Okay. Okay. I think this one is, if we take classes that is not necessarily an English class, but fulfills the writing requirement, will that suffice for the writing prerequisite? And so, yes, it doesn't have to have an English behind it, or communications behind it. But so yes, if you have a writing intensive course, that will satisfy the writing requirement. But if you have any questions, let me type in my email again. You can always send me the course descriptions, and then I can take a look at those and let you know. If I took prerequisites at a community college during high school, would those be accepted? Yes. So as long as they're still on the community college transcript, we can definitely accept those, and that would be fine.
And there is a question here of how did you find healthcare volunteering opportunities? I bet Stephanie and Adam may have some great advice on those.
You can go ahead first, Adam.
Yeah, I mean, I think right now it's kind of like someone had mentioned, it's kind of a strange time. But for me, I did some help. So I did EMT experience. EMT certification takes about 3 months. I don't know how much it costs, but that was a great way to get like hands-on direct patient care experience. And then I also did the Peace Corps, but that's a much bigger commitment.
So I also got my EMT. I didn't actually go through with signing on with an EMT company, but I then got my CNA. And I also ended up being part of a medical team for an LGBTQ kids leadership summer camp. So there's little things like that, and it doesn't like you definitely don't have to become an EMT or a CNA. There's tons of people in my cohort who haven't worked professionally in the field, but I will say that it's any way you can get that experience is really important, because I would hate for anyone to find out while they're in the program that this like nursing isn't right for them. So really any way you can get in there, yeah, it's going to be tough right now, but I guess EMT and CNA is kind of the way to go, because folks will be hiring and there will probably be more job opportunities rather than volunteer opportunities. But I think I Googled medical volunteer Los Angeles, and that's how I found the LGBT camp. So if you look, you shall find.
And another great resource that UCLA has is prehealth.ucla.edu, and there you can find some links to gain experience. And another good resource is free health clinics. Those are the types of health clinics that go out into under-resourced areas and help like homeless populations or just populations that are very vulnerable. And you kind of provide health education, hand out pamphlets. So that's another good way to get some experience.
And also, if you know anybody that, let's say your, I don't know, father-in-law is a doctor or something like that, if you have personal connections, like now is the time to use them, if that somehow can get you into a volunteer opportunity as well. And a lot of folks in my cohort didn't necessarily have hands-on experience, but a lot of them did research, which shows their interest. I think Mark really just wants to know, are you really truly interested in nursing, and have you done the research to be able to answer that question for you?
And I'll just chime in one more time. I'm actually doing a volunteer experience now where we're actually calling hospice patients' families to see if they need any resources and connecting them with the organization that's helping them. So there are remote opportunities as well during this time that you can try and search and kind of do it that way.
Stephanie and Adam, can you talk a little bit about your experience in the program?
Go ahead, Stephanie. Your second year.
I don't even know where to begin. I mean, it's been amazing. The last 2 years have been probably the most challenging thing of my entire life thus far. It's definitely been an adjustment. I think when I was an undergrad, I would have never thought I would have gone back to school. I truly wasn't very passionate about my major, and yeah, I would have never thought I was going to go back to school, and let alone a master's program. And I don't know if I was necessarily prepared for the amount of work that is required, especially just because the medical field is like learning an entirely new language. So it's been challenging, but extremely worth it. And I've grown so close with my cohort. We're all really sad that we aren't able to kind of truly put a nice period at the end of this entire experience together and in person, but I'm really confident that UCLA has prepared us to be really the cream of the crop, and I can say that confidently.
Yeah. So I, like I said earlier, I did a Master's of Public Health. Compared to the MPH program, this is way harder, just in terms of the amount of work, the time commitment. I mean, you know, also because I work, there's just not a lot of time to do other stuff. So if you have a background in biology, if you're a life science major, that's going to be an advantage for sure. Definitely having the bio background, having all those health experiences, definitely help not only with the content, but also just the hands-on experience in interacting with patients. Like Stephanie alluded to, you really grow close to your classmates because you are all going through this difficult experience, and you all really become a resource for each other. So it really helps like to have that tight-knit community because you all end up really helping each other. But in terms of the difficulty, it's hard because I know last quarter, you know, we had 6 classes in a quarter. So you can imagine like it's pretty intense. Yeah.
If you would be able to give one advice to people who are considering the program, what that would look like, or what would that be? All 3 of you can chime in, by the way.
Well, the answer for me would be yes. Obviously, I think what I think is appealing, I don't know, maybe Stephanie and Adam can talk about is if you're receiving a bachelor's degree already, or you're going to be graduating, you know, in 30 days, you know, why would you go back for, you know, an associate's degree, right, in nursing, going back to the community college for that? And why would you go back to receive a BSN to receive a, you know, another bachelor's degree, right, where you can, you know, further your education, still become a nurse, but get at the master's level. So I think that's what's appealing to our program. Obviously, it's UCLA. They can talk about, you know, the different networking, the different opportunities. Hopefully that will come about being a UCLA graduate. But that would be my initial thought is, you know, if you're trying to get the best education, the best way to do it is go through the master's program instead of an associate's, where hospitals aren't even hiring associate nurses, right? Or even, you know, accelerated BSN. That's what I would say.
In terms of like what advice I would give to people going through, I would say like, I think once you're in it, don't be discouraged by your performance in any one class or the clinical aspect of it. I think often I found that nursing students are really hard on themselves and really want to do well and get discouraged because it can be hard. So I would say keep the that air of thought that, you know, this is it's a learning experience. You're learning, and it's all part of the process. So yeah.
I totally agree. I guess my one piece of advice would be, like I said, I was rejected the first time I applied, and I was crushed. And it's all because of you, Mark. But I guess be persistent, be resilient, and, you know, it's a really, really competitive program. I feel like Mark downplayed it a little bit. It's a competitive program. It's like, you know, this is UCLA nursing. We're right next to Ronald Reagan, which is #1 right now. And so be persistent. And with that, when you do get into the program, it's interesting because going from admissions, you have to be highly competitive. You're really fighting for that spot. But once you get into the program, all of that competitiveness needs to go away. When you're a nurse, it's not about competition. It's about being a team player on the floor. And hiring managers will see that when you do immersion. Your professors will see that. And yeah, so that needs to go away when you start the program. I know, and that is kind of hard to go from being extremely competitive to becoming a complete team player. But I think myself and Adam can attest to, you're not going to get through this program by yourself. No one can. And it's so much more fun when you're not alone when you cross that finish line. So yeah, be a team player.
Thank you. And we had one more question here in the Q&A of how many programs did you guys apply to?
I only applied to UCLA and UC Irvine. UC Irvine's, they have an analogous program to what UCLA has. They call it MECN though. Funny enough, I didn't really qualify for a lot of the other BSN programs because they actually have more prerequisites and even an additional exam that you have to take for a lot of their programs.
My first time applying, I think that I just applied to UCLA because I was so sure that I was going to get in. And obviously the second time I decided that was extremely not smart of me. And so I applied to, I would say 7 schools. But I did hear back from UCLA first the second time. So I was able to contact the other schools and let them know that I was no longer interested in their program because I was going to my dream school. And I see that someone asked, since I was rejected the first time, how did I revise or improve my app to be accepted the next time? So it actually wasn't, I didn't edit my application too much. I mean, I rewrote my statement of purpose, but I did, and Mark, I'm not sure if you're still allowing folks to do this, but I did contact admissions and asked what they thought I could improve on for the next time. And I took whatever they told me and did quite literally exactly what they said. I think I was lacking in, leadership, or at least showing my leadership. And so that's when I ended up doing the LGBTQ medical team volunteer. And so I was able to not only like change the application, but really truly do the things that they thought I could improve in within that next year so that I was prepared for the next app round.
And the last question here is, people who apply as soon as the application opens have priority over people who apply before the deadline?
So the answer would be no. So we actually did not look at the applications until after the deadline. So if you're the first one to, apply in September, we would have no idea until, after the 1st. So that's why I always recommend taking your time on the application. You can at least start it, put all your general information in there. And if you already have your 3 recommenders, already put their name down. That way they can get sent the recommendation form early. So it just provides them even more time to complete that. But, write your statement of purpose, your personal statement, rewrite it again. And the more experience you get within that time frame, leading up to November 1st, you never know. Something can happen then. So yeah, I don't recommend being the first to apply. Just make sure it's submitted by November 1st.
I just want to thank all of you for taking the time to joining us. Again, thank you for all your great advice, all the great information that you've shared. For those of you who attended this webinar, please fill out the attendance survey, and you can reach out to Mark and Adam and myself as well. At the Career Center, we have resources for you. We can talk you through the application process. We review personal statements, resumes, so feel free to use us as your resource, because that's why we are here for. Stephanie, thank you so much, and congratulations on your imminent graduation. Thank you. And thank you for everything you nurses do out there. It's Nurses Week, so thank you for everything. And if there is anything we can do for you in the future, please don't hesitate to reach out as well.
Thank you.
Again, thanks for everybody, and just reach out if you have any other questions, and we look forward to seeing you at other webinars for those of you who attended. And for everyone else, have a fantastic work week.
Thank you. Go UCLA. Wait.
Go UCLA. Yay. Bye, everyone. Thank you so much.